fox say? Hello and welcome to Craft Camp. Today we are going to be making these two different versions of felt foxes. This one's a simple glue project and this one is needle felted. I added little keychain rings to them so you can add them to your keys or your backpack, or I was thinking my car rear view mirror. All right, let's get started. Since we're going to be making this in two different ways today, I'm going to show you the tools we'll need for the felt version first. For the felt version, we'll be using the tangerine felt and the vanilla felt. I also have the tangerine colored floss in number 740 and the black floss in number 310. I have a set of embroidery needles, and for the base of both of these versions, we'll be using the 4cm orange wool balls. I'll also be using the art glitter glue, but you can use any sort of craft white glue. I have a pair of scissors, a pair of needle nose pliers. This is just for pulling the needle through. And I've printed out my template on some paper ready to go. For the needle felting version, I have my felting pad, my needles, and my needle felting finger guards. I also have roving wool in 3 different colors: tangerine, licorice, and natural white. And if you want to make this a keychain, I also have a set of keychain rings here, and I'll show you how to attach it. All right, let's get started with the felt version of this. I'm going to start with just one of these tangerine balls, and I'm going to go ahead and cut the felt from the template. So we'll be cutting the bottom of the face and the inside of the ears from the vanilla and the outside of the ears from the tangerine. So I've got my pieces all cut out, and I'm going to go ahead and assemble the ears first. So I want the longer side to be on the outside. We're going to place the little triangles right here on the inside of the ears, leaving a bit of a gap here on the bottom. And that's so that the ears can attach to our felt ball. And you can see I've chosen the piece that slants with the ear. You can see that angle right here. And now those are attached. Now we're going to go ahead and place on the face of the fox. So I'm going to just observe my ball here and decide which direction I want it to go in. These are handmade, so they're not perfectly round, and you want to look for the shape that you like. So it's got a little bit of a point on this side. I think I'll go this direction. So I'm going to put glue on this, and we're just going to go all around the edges. And we're going to just place this in here. The nice thing about this being a ball is that if you don't like where it's placed, you can just turn the ball. And if you need to, you can just add a little more glue. The felt does definitely absorb this glue, so sometimes you need a little extra. All right, our face is attached. And now we're going to place our ears on. The way that we'll want to do this is we're going to fold back the felt and we're going to glue it, and so the white is flush with the top of the head. You can see like this. Now the placement of the ears is important for our little foxy guys, so let's go ahead and hold them both on and see where we like them. I think that looks nice and foxy. I'm just starting with a little bit of glue just to get this on, and then we can add more if we need to. Keep adjusting them while the glue dries. Make sure they're even. Cute. And you can see the back, it has these little tufted details. All right, now let's add the face details. Before I add the rest of the face, I'm going to go ahead and let this dry for about 5 minutes. Now that this little guy is dry, I'm going to add in the eyes. So I've got this set of craft eyes, and these are for needle felting. So they have little pegs that go straight in, and we're just gonna glue them in. I'm gonna use the medium size. I'm going to use the needle felting needle, but if you have an awl or another little sharp utensil, you can use that instead. And I'm just going to poke a little hole where I want these eyes to go. And you can use this as an opportunity to kind of measure them out and make sure they're going to be even and that you like the placement that you're choosing. I'm putting it right in the top of the little white section here. And once those holes are there, we can kind of wiggle them in and see if we like how they look before gluing. Once they're glued, they're going to be in, so we want to make sure we like them. I've got the eyes in. I'm going to go ahead and just secure these with a little dot of glue. So I'm just going to pull them out a little bit and add a little glue and push them back down. That will just hold them in place. And now we're going to add the nose. There's a couple options for what you can do here. If you wanted, you could use the largest size craft eye and do the exact same thing and just put it in right at the base of this little V right here. Or if you wanted, you could also use embroidery floss, which is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to cut a little section of black floss. We don't need too much for this. This is about 12 inches. And I am going to get one of my largest needles. I'm going to tie a little knot here on the end. And I'm just going to trim this right up to the knot. So I'm going to just dip in right here at the tip of the nose and come right back out. We're just going to make a little tiny dash right down there. You can see. We're just going to pull this through and pull the knot all the way to the end. We want this knot to kind of sit right in the center of this V shape here. And next we're just going to stitch right over the top of this knot using the same technique, just pulling it in and back out like this. We're just going to create a few little lines to be our nose. All right, now I've got my little nose stitched here. I'm just going to trim this and I'm going to kind of pull it tight. So we're going to pull it really tight and trim it as close to the knot as we can, and then let go, and it should just kind of slip back into the ball, and it will hold. And if you want to make sure that it holds with no slipping, you can add just a little tiny dot of glue where it ended, and that will dry clear and just ensure that it doesn't come loose at all. Next up, while we have all of these threads on this needle, I'm going to go ahead and make the whiskers. So for the whiskers, I'm just going to put the needle in. I'm going about even with the nose, maybe about halfway through this little section here. If I go out too far, it ends up looking a little bit too much like a cat. So to give that appearance of a pointed nose, we're going to do it a little closer in. We're just going to go straight through, try to get it even on both sides. If it takes a few tries, that's okay. Just going to pull, and this is where your needle nose pliers might come in handy. Just pull this through. And now we're just going to trim this to be the length that we want the whiskers. So I want them to be kind of short. In here, be a little longer than that. And trim. And there we have our whiskers. Now we can just spread them out. So cute. And for a final touch, I'm just going to add a little mouth. And for this, I just want one piece of embroidery floss. So I'm going to just pull out one single little thread. I'll just use the same needle since we're not working on a regular embroidery. We can use the big one. So I'm going to put the needle down right at the bottom of the little fox's nose, and I'm just going to make an angle and come out slightly to one side. And I'm going to pull the floss right into the nose, and if you want, again, you can secure this with just a dot of glue to make sure it doesn't come out. And next I'm going to come back in right here at the tip of the nose, and then I'm going to make similar line coming out the other side, and we want this to be as even as we can. So you can see this is going to make the second dash here. Pull this tight, ignore the whiskers. And there's our little half mouth. And then we'll bring this in, and this time I can come out wherever I want. We'll go out the bottom. There's our little second part of our mouth, and there we go. I'm just going to trim this here. Again, you can pull this, trim it, and it should just disappear right into the ball. He's a little grumpy fox. My fox mouth didn't end up quite even, but I kind of like it. It gives him a little personality. And this concludes our simple felted version of this little fox guy. Next, I'm going to make the needle felted version, and then after that, I'll show you how to attach the keychain. So I've taken out some sections of felt. I've got quite a bit of the tangerine color, just a little bit of the licorice, and a little bit of the natural white. So first off, we're going to make a little muzzle on this. And this is where I think it gets a little bit more fun than just the glue version, because with needle felting, we can actually create a little bit more form. Roll this felt up just a little bit to get it a bit more tight and place it on the felt ball. This is going to get a lot smaller as we work. So I'm just going to get it on and then we'll form a shape. What we're trying to do is create a little bit of a point for the nose, just like this. My mom has been trying to get me to do needle felting for ages now, and I've been resisting. But as soon as I made this fox, I realized that I think I have a new obsession. Needle felting is so fun. It's basically sculpting with a little needle. And you can see we're already starting to get our little muzzle shape. And I'm just going to keep going. I want this to be a little bit more condensed with the wool. It's still slightly too fluffy. And if we wanted to add more, we always can. All right, I'm feeling pretty good about this. You can see that nice little muzzle shape. I've kind of flattened it out on one side right here, and then the other side comes up, and then the nose will be right here. So for our next step, I'm going to add a bit of white, and we're going to add this to the chin, like our little fox face. But for this one, I think I'm just going to do the lower half to do a little bit of a different look. You can look at references of foxes to decide how you want this to look on yours. I kind of want to just make this into a little disc before I start applying it to the ball. I don't want it too tight because I want to be able to shape it once it's on, but we'll go from there. And I want the white to start right where the nose is going to be and then come all down the chin. Maybe up the sides a little bit. I definitely think needle felting will become one of my new favorite hobbies. So expect to see more of this in the future with different animals, maybe some little objects. I'm just going to add a little bit more, and you can see I've just got a wisp of this white felt. I'm just going to add it on right here to give a little bit more cheek shape. You can see I've done that on this side, so we're going to even it out. I love this medium. I think it is so fun and versatile, and you can really get some cool textures. I'm excited to play with it more and learn all of the tips and tricks. If you have any tips or tricks for needle felting, leave them in the comments below because I'm just learning. You're learning along with me if you don't know how to do this already. You can see our foxy face is coming together. Next up, we're going to make some ears. So for this, I'm just going to get a bit of this orange wool and I'm just going to fold it into kind of this triangle shape. We want to leave quite a bit of excess on the bottom so we can attach it. And the nice thing about this tangerine color is it perfectly matches our wool felt balls. You can't even tell what's been added. So I've kind of made a triangle shape with some wisps on the bottom. And now I'm going to make this nice and condensed. And if we need to add more for thickness, we can. And I just keep folding it in so that we get those nice crisp edges. So I've kind of got the base of this ear going, and we can test it for size, see if we want to make it any bigger or smaller. Maybe a little more narrow would be good. So we'll just fold it in, add a little more. And I'm going to take another little wisp of the white, and I'm just going to do the same thing, fold it and place it right here in the center. All right, we've got our first fox ear pretty much ready to go. And before I put this on, I'm going to make the second one, just keeping this one here for size. Oh. So I've got my 2 ears made and I'm just compared sizes and they're about the right size. And now I'm just going to attach them. So I'll place them where I want them. And then we're just going to put all of this wool down onto the ball. And if we wanted a little less, we could always trim some away just to make our job a little easier. I'm cutting in straight so that it's not a perfectly straight line. Hair cutting technique here. For those of you who don't know, I was a hairstylist for a long time. And I've just got the ear kind of folded over here, and I'm just going in and really pinning it down right at the base of the ear first. That looks pretty good. And now we're just going to get all this fluff down. All right, I've done the same thing with the other ear, and I've just tested it to make sure that they are a good size, good distance apart, nice and even, getting all this little fluffs down. And if you're new to needle felting, you'll notice that there's little tiny holes where I push this in, and I've found that you can pretty easily disguise those holes just by rubbing your finger over the top of it. I usually wait until I'm all the way done before I do that. All right, now that these are attached, I'm just going to do, this is one of my favorite things about needle felting. So I'm going to hold the ear up and kind of give it a little curve, just like a natural ear would. And then I'm going to felt that in and come into the center, do the same thing on this side, come into the center and just push down. This gives it a really beautiful natural shape. All right, Our ears are on and our fox is looking very cute. Now we're going to add the face details. So for this, I'm going to use just a little bit of our black or our licorice color wool. And to make the eyes, I've got a very small amount of it here. I'm just going to roll it into a little ball. We can do less, we can do more. We can always add more, so let's start with a little less. So I've got my little felt ball. It's going to start off looking a little bit too big. You can see that's kind of a bulging eye, but we are going to press this in and it's going to disappear into the felt ball. And this is what's going to hold it into place. You can do this until it's the size and shape that you want. You can see one eye in. Now let's do the other one. And now he's got two eyes, so cute. Let's add a nose. We're going to do the exact same thing for the nose. This time you can make it a little bigger if you want, whatever size feels good. I'm just going to put the nose right here on the tip, right where the white starts. And if you get a little divot like I did, I'm just going to keep adding a little bit more black wool right on top until it builds out the shape that I want. And you really don't need much. And you can kind of use the tip of your needle to form a shape if you want it to be a little bit wider at the top and then get skinnier at the bottom, like a little nose. Just kind of move the wool around with the tip and press it in. And once the nose is in, if you wanted to go ahead and shape the top of the muzzle a little bit more, you can. And for this, I'm just gonna make the space between the eyes right here. I'm gonna try to get this nice and flat, just kind of like the shape of a muzzle. And then we'll bring it in a little bit here. And this is something you can just play with. It takes a little bit of trial and error. You can make as many of these as you want. Cute. And then to get those holes out, I'm just rubbing it with the tip of my finger, fluffing it up. Looking good. I'm just going to add a little mouth, and for this, I'm going to take just the tiniest amount of wool and I'm going to twist it into a little line. We don't want this to be too long, so I might trim it with my scissors. And I'm gonna make a little mustache. Basically, we'll pin it in right in the middle. And then bring those lines down where we want it. This is something that I'm just kind of experimenting with. So again, if you have any tips for needle felting, little details like this, please let me know. I'm having a great time learning, but I learn best just by doing and messing up a few times. And there we have it, our little fox guy. Isn't he cute? I love this project. I think it is so adorable and pretty easy. And for our final step, we're just going to add the little keychain to the head of this guy. I'm going to add it to the head of this one because I already made a keychain version of the needle felted one. Here, this was my first one, so we've got two, now they're brothers. So now we're going to make this one into a keychain. I've got the matching orange thread and I'm just going to cut a little bit. We don't need too much here. And you're going to need your needle nose pliers for this for sure. I'm going to just make a little loop and we're going to tie both ends together here on the end and trim it nice and close. So now you've got your thread like this on your needle. And now we're just going to go straight from the bottom up in between the ears. And if it takes you a couple tries to get it where you need it, that is okay because we want it to come out right between the ears, slightly towards the front of the face. So he's looking up. And then when you see the top of the needle, grab your pliers and you can just pull it out. Next, we're going to just tie a little knot here. And I'm gonna leave a little bit of excess space. So not take it all the way down, but pretty close. Pull it nice and tight and we'll just cut this. Now we've got our keychain piece here and I will use my needle nose pliers or my fingers, whatever works, and just open up this jump ring. Keep it firm in between your fingers so it doesn't fall loose. And then we're going to put it between the threads on this little loop we made here. Close it up. Make sure it's nice and tight so none of the threads go through the loop. And there we have it, our two adorable fox keychains. You can put this on a bag, or I was kind of thinking I'd like to hang it on my rear view mirror, looking at me while I drive. I hope you enjoyed making these with me. We'll be doing more needle felting in the future, and you can find all of these tools and materials in our shop, feltpaperscissors.com. Hey Siri, what does the fox say?
Cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-chow.